Hello, guys. Thank you very much for joining in. Hi, this is Ganesh Nayak. I help finance professionals and students to excel at their career, and I also help students who are preparing for the FRM and the CF exam. I'm back with one of my students interview who has been able to clear the FRM Level 1 exam in the November 2022 attempt. Okay, we're going to be talking about his journey, his way of preparation, what challenges he faced, and how he was able to clear the exam. Also, he was not my full-time student. He only took the question bank for the preparation. The entire course preparation was done by him alone. So we would like to understand what was the way on the process also. Further, the entire activity that we are doing or why we are doing all of these interviews is that there are a lot of students who are preparing on their own. They need guidance, they need support, and they need to understand that the challenges that they are facing, they are not alone. There are other people who have faced it and they have cleared it. That is why these interviews are being done. With this, let us start with the discussion. Jemit, thank you very much for taking out time and talking to us. And if you could tell the audience, when did you started the preparation with us, and what was your educational or professional background when you started that?
Thank you, sir, for inviting me for this. Firstly, so in terms, I'll first give my educational, and professional background. So I'm an engineer. I've completed my engineering from Mumbai University. Post which I've done my post graduation in finance.
Mhm.
After that, I've joined. I started my career only in risk consulting. And After my first stint into the banking and financial services industry, after getting various exposures to this domains, across the industry, I would say, I moved on to join, the captives in investment banks,
Okay.
basically in Mumbai. So I switched to a couple of them, and that is when I realized that okay, this is the time where where I need to up my game in terms of domain knowledge as well, because when you're part of these global investment banks, it is very important that you understand the basics of financial risk, in terms of what are the various different financial products in place,
Right.
and what are the different types of risk which are in place, what's market risk, what's credit risk, etc. So that's very important, from a career perspective, if you want to be aligned with what's currently running in the market. So that's when this thought of FRM had triggered me when I joined one of the captives. But I took around, I would be honest, around a couple of years to think across, if this is the really, because my earlier profile when I first joined the investment bank was not exactly aligned to financial risk as such. But later on when I switched on, it was a direct match for me, and that is when I, directly after
Mm.
joining within 6 months, I realized that no, this is something which I want to get into, and will
Right.
definitely add on, into my life. So that was, I would say, the trigger point for me to do the FRM part.
So when did
Now,
you started the preparation and when did you join us?
sure. So I started the preparation, I would say, somewhere in the month of mid June. I would say, not very seriously, to be honest, but yeah, from July onwards, I would say, where I was very serious in terms of getting myself registered and making a plan to to do so by November. In terms of joining you, I joined you in early October.
Okay.
Yeah, during just about 1.5 months before the exam.
And so from June, when you started actually, from there till October, what were you doing? What was the process that you were following? And how much time you were giving on a daily basis?
Yes. So firstly, sir, in terms of, I would say process. So what I was doing is, when I started, so I was, also referring to one of my colleagues, who had already cleared FRM was in the process of doing a level two. So he had told me that, the best way is, to go and take a Schweizer's note and just start reading, the book as such.
Mhm.
Now, so what I'd done is I'd got the Schweizer books, I started reading them. But when I went through YouTube, I really, the good part and honestly the comfort which gave me was your videos. In terms of how do we prep for level one, what is the approach to prepare, which book to start one, which are the chapters which are interconnected. So you have uploaded all those videos on YouTube, which really helped me to actually make a plan for the next 4 to 5 months. I would say that ways. So that was, I started with, I would say, level the book one only, which
Mhm.
actually, gave me because it was a theory book, right? So
Right.
it gave me a confidence as well in terms of, there's something which I can do across,
Right.
and coming from an engineering background, I know that everyone had told me that, and especially in videos also I had seen that book two is something which is very difficult, and and a little bit tricky for everyone. So I thought so, and honestly, the first part of the book, I would say, where it was probability and everything, I was still okay to do it, considering I was from an engineering background. But the second part of the book, I would say, yes, that definitely gave me few trigger and goosebumps on in what's happening, especially in those time series and regression chapters, I would say. So that's
Okay.
something, yeah. So this is when, I would say, July onwards, I took that, when these chapters I came through, I realized that no, this is now, you need to up your game. You can't take it lightly just as you did book one. This is not something which is going to help you that way. So that's when I would say the sort of seriousness triggered me in terms of, doing the remaining books. So I think I completed, as far as I recall, my first reading around, I would say, somewhere between mid September to end of September. Around that time, that's when I completed my first reading. Now, after I did my first reading, then naturally the first thing what you do is, you will start referring to mock papers or question bank, just to see where you are standing, and if
Hmm.
you're on the right track or not. And that is when, honestly, I'd got first the BT notes, I remember. But when I saw those BT notes, it was completely out of the way for me. Then I spoke to one of her students only, who was a full-time student with you, and in fact, she was on the journey with me this entire throughout journey, uh, and I really thank her also, for this entire. And she told me that, this is that she taken your course, and that is when I realized, okay, this is something. The question bank part, at least, because I had finished my reading, the question bank part and mock papers, because that gives you an actual exam time, view, how do
Right.
questions look like in exam, and it has a timing and everything, so rather than solving through manually, I felt that that would be very good, and hence I went for the question bank, this thing. Now,
Okay.
obviously, when I spoke to you, you gave me a path also, that obviously this, since you have only 1.5 month, that how are you, going to plan up to complete all these questions chapter by chapter, and book by book, and
Hmm.
then go to the mock papers. So that's how, I overall, that's my overall journey on how did I structure my plan. But in
Okay.
terms
But
of seriousness, I would say it is very important that anyone who is working individual, I would suggest that you you will have to take a cutoff, in somewhere where you will have to give the things, the noise, you will have to cut out your external noise, that's very, very important, I would say. So I think somewhere around, because the thing is, when you give a November attempt, there are a lot of festivals, which come through in between,
yes.
and which are all the external noises which which will help you deviate, which will try and deviate your focus. And it's like you have done all your hard work for those many number of months, and just because of those festivals, you will ruin your end time. So I would say that end time is also very, very crucial on how are you planning your last 15 days to 20 days, in terms of your approach.
Okay. So one question. So when you started in June, how much time on a daily basis you were giving after office?
So what I was doing is, yeah. So honestly, when I started in June, I was not doing on weekdays. I was doing only on weekends.
Hmm.
Otherwise, but I planned leaves in between. So that I can study on weekdays also. But mid July onwards, as I said, when I went through this book two, quant specifically, I realized that doing only weekends is not going to something help me. And obviously, you can't do all weekends. Also, you have other plans as well. So what I started
Right.
doing is, weekdays also, I started getting up early before office when I was working from home, read for a couple of hours, and then start doing office work. And then and when, in fact, whenever I used to go to office also, I used to make it a point that, because I used to travel through office transport, so at least when I'm traveling, I'm revising whatever I've read through over the weekend, so that at least I have that one
Hmm.
look on what's happening across. So that's how I started. But yes, I would say September onwards, completely all weekends, and weekdays also devoted to this FRM.
Perfect. So you completed your full reading of the Swedger, and you also refer to the crash course videos. Am I correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
So honestly, my approach was studying, for every chapter, I would say. So the first thing is, I would refer to your, once I've done the planning and everything, I'll refer to your video. I'll go through that one chapter which you have gone through, mark the important points, and then I'll do a self reading of the entire chapter. So I'll
Mhm.
go through the entire chapter in detail, and then I'll go through the questions and everything, and that is how I've done one chapter in detail. I would say.
Okay. And then when did you complete your entire reading? Which time?
As in the first reading.
Yes, full first reading.
Full first reading, yeah, that was somewhere between mid September to end of September. I would consider moreover end of September,
Okay.
because I remember after going through the mock for not even, I had not done a perfect mock also, but just going through the Schwezer, questions. You have two mock papers in Schwezer. So after going through the Schwezer, first mock, I realized that no, this is just, doing your reading is sort of not enough, for you
Hmm.
to go and give your exam, and these two mock papers are not going to give you everything. So that is when I realized that I need some sort of reference to a question bank, which will help me to practice what I've done through so many days, so many months, that entire thing. So that is when,
Hmm.
and honestly, I would say, sir, your question bank is amazing. The chapter wise question banks, I felt that was because what happens is whenever you get challenged in a question bank,
Hmm.
you will go back to your notes, refer to what is it that you're going on. And in fact, in terms of difficult chapters as well, what the best part, what you've given is you've given video solutions for that. So that really helps a person, a student, to understand, okay, what was the thought process behind this. Because see, during exams, what I felt is it is all about how do you think across, when you're applying your principles and everything. And I think that really that sort of thinking, because in a theory question, if it is a direct application, it's okay. But obviously exam is not that straightforward that it will give you a direct question from a Schwezer book. They will try and test you, what's your knowledge, what's your understanding of this entire concept. And I think those videos honestly has helped me in terms of understanding those concepts on how do you think
Okay.
across, these sort of concepts come into picture.
Got it. Got it. Now, you solved all the chapter-wise questions?
I would say 90% of it, 90 to 95% of it. So what I'd done is, in book one, firstly I'd gone through the important chapters, so that is what I had solved across.
Hmm.
Book three, book four, I'd completely solved it because I knew that the weightage of those books, was much higher. And book two also, earlier I had done those important chapters. But then, when I was going through the mocks, I realized that book one and book two, are also, I think book one is something which everyone takes very lightly, to be very honest. And I
Hmm.
think that's a mistake to be done. That I think the exam also makes you learn that book one is not something which you can take very lightly. It's a really really important book. So that is when what I started doing is I started going through back through the chapters, which I have not done across. And what I used to do is the chapters which I'm missing out, whenever I'm revising that entire book, I'll make sure that I'll put that 1 hour in the, towards the end of the day, to do the chapters which I'm missing out. So it's not that I'm the entire day I'm going and solving my entire question bank. My idea was very simple, that you do not devote your entire, you plan as per what you have done, and whatever
Hmm.
additional you want to do, you keep that 1 or 2 hours extra towards the end of the day, and you manage in that time. That's how it helped me to stay on my plan as well. Otherwise, your plan goes for a toss completely.
Right. And how many mock papers you solved before going to the
uh,
exam?
yeah, so mock papers, I would say honestly, I think around five I had solved the mock papers at least. So I remember one was GARP. In fact, GARP sample papers, I had solved couple of them, but then I realized the second paper was very similar to what I had solved the first one. So which is
Yes.
when I said, yeah, it's only useful to solve one paper. But then your mock papers, which are there part of the question bank module, I had to solved for four of them.
Okay.
Yeah, so total
What was
five.
the average score you were getting?
So initially, sir, when I started, so my approach was, whatever I'm confident, I will only answer those questions. I'm not going to
Hmm.
answer any other questions as such.
Right.
So the confident ones, so initially I was getting somewhere a score between 50 to 55. But then I realized, for me to understand whether I'm giving the right guesses also, I need to actually start solving everything. So then I think from second mock onwards, I started actually doing my full paper. I was not leaving the questions, which I was not but what I used to do is I used to mark them, the one which I know that I'm giving a tentative, a calculated guess, or it's a complete fluke. I used to mark them very well, so that I know that when I'm revising those, when I'm going through the paper again, through my results again, I know that this, okay, this I've got right, but I know that this was a guess from my end. So I'll come to know whether my calculated guess was correct or was it a complete fluke. So I'll at least have those segregations, between when I was solving those papers. So that time I started scoring around, I would say somewhere between 65, 60 to 65. That was my usual
Hmm.
score
Okay.
when I'm solving mock papers.
Okay. So you analyzed it very well. I mean, you realized what is the mistake. You worked on that. You read the concept again. then the score started improving, right?
Yeah, so
So,
basically, my approach
mm,
was, sir, first off, as I had planned my, and honestly, thanks again to you, for your video again. You had very well given that guidance that if you have taken your, exam in first half of the day, make sure you solve the paper during that time only. So I used to make sure that, because the FRM used to start around 9:30, so I will also start at that time only. 9:30 to 1:30 was a time which I used to give to my mock papers for sure, and
right.
without any disturbance. I remember highlighting, in this one of the videos also, that please ensure there is some noise in the background, which is, because the exam environment may not be the same as,
Yes.
what you have. Now, luckily, my exam environment was silent, but the way, I prepared across, so I joined actually the library, before 15 days. As told you, that it was a festival time, before that. So I knew that during Diwali, there are a lot of guests who come around at home. So it is impossible that you may be able to concentrate. And as I mentioned,
Barabar.
your 4 months of hard work is only going to pay you off, 4 to 5 months is only going to pay you off if you have those last 15 days, with you. Because what happens during those 4 months, you'll go chapter by chapter and book by book, but in those last 15 days, that's the time when you have all your 4 books together. You will ensure that all
Mm,
your knowledge and application comes together. So that's very very important, in that terms. So what I've done is 9:30 to 1:30 I used to do mock papers. Post lunch break, I used to ensure that I am re-going through my entire mock, seeing where I've
mhm.
gone wrong, read the concepts again, and then so give a mock again. So typically I would not take a back-to-back mock, honestly. Again, that
Okay.
was as per your guidance. What I used to do is I used to take one mock, give 2 to 3 days of break. So in break, I used to ensure that I used to revise, book. So earlier my plan was to revise the entire book in 3 days, but honestly, that's all, I would say that's all an ambitious world where you revise the entire all 4 books in 3 days. It's impossible. So then I realized that okay, you can do 2 books at a time in 3 days. That's something that is also, if you stretch and manage, 2 books is manageable. Otherwise, one and a half book. So I used to ensure that okay, I'll do that one and a half to 2 book in that time, give a mock paper, and then the other one and a half to 2 book I'll revise it before the next mock. So that is what I'd done, to ensure that my reading is or revision is also happening, and I'm also learning from what I've gone wrong. And I think
Okay.
reading Schwezer line by line is very very important. I think the most important thing which we miss out is, Array, I don't think this concept will come across. It's last part of the book. It's just a small part of the book. No one has marked it as important. So you never realize it. When the exam comes in and you say, oh my god, this was a question which which was going through.
That's very normal. I mean, they pick up one line, they pick up one word, they will create the entire question around it.
True, absolutely true, sir.
And so you started out with a score of around 50 to 55, and then you gradually, post solving five mocks, you were at the end of around 60, 65. When you went to the exam date on the exam center, first 1 hour when you started solving, what happened
I would say, honestly, despite of going through so many mocks, I was struggling with time.
then?
That was my first this thing. So my first hour of my exam, I remember there was a swap question, which had come. So, and being from an engineering background, calculation is my strength, I would say. So I'm not a person who will keep a calculation, for a last moment or so. I will rather want to pick that up first, because I know that
Okay.
okay, this is a short where I can get my marks on. And I would say that is the mistake also I did, to be very honest, because I remember that swap question, though I got, hopefully I got the answer right, but it took me around 8 to 10 minutes, and an average
Wow.
question should take you around 2.5 to 3 minutes. Not 2 minutes is ideal, not more than that, while doing an FRM. So that is when I realized in the first hour, instead of having 25 questions, I was able to do around 18 to 19. And which is when I realized, no, this is something which, though I was I would say confident of, whatever I've gone through, at least out of the 25, okay, 15 to 20 was something, which I wouldn't say that I've given a complete fluke. Yeah, I think that it was reasonable that way. So my then approach for the next hour was basically, no, I know that I want to work on basically the questions which I know for sure. Okay, but if there is a complicated sum, I'm not going to touch it. That is when I
Right.
decided that I'll do towards the end half an hour or whatever time is left with me. But I need to make sure that after the end of first hour, if I'm not able to do 50 questions, at least I should be somewhere in the range of 45. Otherwise, it will be impossible for me to complete my paper after 2 hours. So, and that is how I was able to manage 44 45 questions. I think I was at the end of second hour. At the
Hmm.
end of third hour again, I was around 70 or so. So my pace was gradual, so that way I was able to achieve 25 questions in second and third hour. But the time which I lost in my first hour, that was something which I had to cope up still towards the end of the fourth hour. And that is the time when you have marked questions also for review, you have to do those as well. That is also very very important that way. So yeah, I would say in the last hour, yes, that is when luckily I had theory questions also in the last hour, so which helped me to do my times also. And there were one or two sums, so that ways in those one or two sums, I remember one of them I had taken a calculated guess, saying that I did some sort of calculation, and I took going to the options, and I would say honestly, this is also due to mock paper practice. Like what
Hmm.
happens when you don't have time? What do you do in
Right.
that case? It's not only about giving just doing an inky pinky ponky and just marking an answer and coming out. It's always about you can at least spend a minute on the question, read the
Right.
options if the options are helping you to make a certain guess, which is a calculated guess, and that is that can be right as well. It's not that always it will go wrong if your calculations go the right way. So that's something sort of helped me in the last hour, and yes, bang on time I was able to complete my entire paper.
Okay. Okay. Perfect. And how was the theory? I mean, what bifurcation theory and practical?
So theory, as I told you, sums was the strength, but FRM always, GARF will always give you such challenges where they wouldn't give you the entire calculation part. So calculation was around 20 to 25 questions max, not more than that. The most of was theory, 70 to 75.
Okay.
Calculation, I would say, out of 25. I would say 15 to 17 was straightforward, time consuming, but straightforward. I would say that way. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
5 to 7 of them were not very very straightforward in terms of they did not they gave a table but not a joint probability table. So they were very
Okay.
smart in terms of how do you understand those tables. But the theory
Mm-hmm.
part, you will feel that okay, the question is very very easy, but trust me, it's not that way. It is like you have to read the options and then only decide what is the right answer. So all your options, you will feel that okay, out of the four, okay, you'll be able to eliminate one, but not all the other three of them. So it's like if you have read Schweizer at least 3 to 4 readings, then I think that will definitely help you, in terms of putting the right answers.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, it is like you may feel that this is right, but you may go wrong because there's a very thin line of difference on what is being asked in the question and what is the answer. Because the answers will all of them mostly will be correct apart from one, but what will happen is the question would be very specific. So yeah, you need to tie back, okay, what was my question and hence what is my answer for this question.
Got
That's
it.
very very important, I would say.
So when you came out of the exam, okay, what was the number in your mind that okay, I've got this much correct, that much correct?
So I felt that was my gut feeling, honestly. As I'd done, mocks, I was confident with at least getting. I was like, in terms of right, I would somewhere be at least around 50 questions. I would be 100% that okay, this is something which I've done right.
Mm-hmm.
Based on my approach, and this includes calculated guess also, because as I said, the sums were only 20 or 25. So otherwise, you can't be sure for all other theory questions. So yeah, somewhere around 50 to 55, I was like, okay, I think I am, surely going to get it around. Yeah, the rest 10 to 15, I would say is I think I should be able to get it through my different, approaches which I used. So that was somewhere my score that I should reach around 60 to 65, in the same approach as what I was using in mock. I think
Okay.
that really helped me because, yeah, and especially I remember, so, you had put up a video on YouTube on how to analyze your mock papers, what all things to
Mm-hmm.
mark when you mock papers. I think that is very very important because once you start doing that, what I've done is one day before the exam, the concepts, which I was not sure of still, because I know that time and time again these questions had come in during mock papers and I was not able to crack it very easily. I had
Mm-hmm.
marked those, and one day before the exam I ensure that I'm going through those concepts thoroughly, and that definitely I would say, sort of helped me prepare and up my game as well.
Got it. Got it. Wonderful. And what are the quartiles that now you have got?
So it's first quartile in all four subjects.
One, 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 one. Perfect, perfect. Now, if I ask you if there is any three tips that you could give to the audience who is preparing for the FRM Level 1 exam, what would those three tips be?
So one is definitely, I would say, the base is, please go and read Schwezer line by line. Please do not miss any sort of, I would say, especially the chapters which you consider are very easy. Stress testing, ERM, enterprise risk management. I think very important chapters, very basic chapters. When you read it, you may still feel that okay, these are general knowledge. You may still get it, after going in the
Hmm.
exam. But trust me, this is not an, I would say, a very easy thing. So in those kind of theory chapters, the only solution you have is basically read and read. As much as you're going to read, your concepts are going to be clarified, and honestly, I'll tell you that I remember that when I was on my fourth reading, okay, that at times you the concept struck to you that time, in the fourth reading. Oh, this is what they're trying to explain you from, and that is what you are trying to miss out from such a long
Right,
time. Oh yeah, so having that sort of, don't take it lightly. That way, I've done the reading. I think this chapter is easy. No, I would suggest that please ensure that that you are doing your full thorough reading of Schwezer. That's very important. Number two, in terms of solving mock papers, solving questions, again, I would say a very important item, because honestly, sir, as I mentioned earlier, that question bank, of you really helped me, to in terms of applying my reading. Because one is, you read across the entire book, and the second part is, apart from reading, you need to ensure that okay, whatever you have read, you are able to apply that. Because unless and until you are able to apply that, it's not going to be very easy for you. So that ways I felt, yes, second thing is definitely ensure that you're solving adequate number of questions, giving mock papers, giving at the same time, which is during your exams. That is also equally important, because that will help you, make your practice more good that ways. So giving those sort of, I would say, time to your questions and application is very equally important. Understand that you are analyzing your papers well. Please, just giving a question, solving a question bank won't, or your mock paper won't help you. You have to make sure that you're going back to the mock papers, understanding what mistakes have you done, and so that you don't repeat those mistakes in your next exam. So that's secondly very important. And the third thing is, I would say, diligence, in terms of how do you prepare, what is your approach in terms of preparation. Because honestly, this exam is not something which is, I would say, very easy. You will understand when you come out of your exams, how did the paper go. You won't be able to answer people that whether okay, you're going to confidently clear that out, or no. You will have to definitely rely till the results come out over there. So ensure that you have that sort of diligence. There will be a lot of noises, whether you give May exam, whether you give November exam. There will be a lot of disturbances. You will have personal commitments, you'll be a, but please make sure that you are giving that adequate time enough for preparation. Because over here, I wouldn't say it's all about luck. It's hard work plus, I would say, yes, you need some bit of luck, no doubt on that. But yeah, it's, I would say, 90% is how you prepare and what is your approach for preparing this entire for FRM level 1 or maybe level 2. And ensure that you're giving even if you're a working individual, ensure that you're giving adequate time over weekends, and especially the last 15 days. I think that's very
hmm,
important, very important, because that is the time you will, all your hard work of 4 months will come in one place, because that's the time you have to recall all four books together. That is important, because what your approach will typically be silo, till 3 to 4 months you'll go book by book and everything. But that last 15 days is really important when you combine all your thoughts into one. So these are
right.
the three things, I would say, so
Wonderful.
for
I mean,
clearing out.
this entire conversation is going to be so much motivational, so much uh, application based for a lot of students who are preparing for the exam. They'll take a lot of keywords, key things from your discussion, and I'm sure this is going to be very helpful for a lot of students. So thank you very much, Jamit. Thank you for taking out time and talking to us and giving insight on your entire journey, starting from reading the Swedger, going through the crash course videos, solving the question bank, managing the exam, changing your strategy in the exam day on the live environment. Everything is going to be definitely helpful. Thank you very much, Amit. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much, sir. Yeah, I hope that this video definitely helps people, in terms of prepping the game. And yes, all the best to whoever is appearing for this exam. And thank you so much, sir, for all your guidance. I doubt this would have been possible without. Though I got in touch with you in October, but I think I was with you from right from day one when I started my journey for this FRM. So I would say yes. So I did not feel that I'm talking to you for the first time because I've been seeing you on YouTube, for that all that while in those 4 months, though I got in touch with you in October. So I think that's really helps, in terms of prepping up. So thank you so much for your guidance as well.
Thank you.